Welcome back to Copper Star Precision, the channel dedicated to getting you more points at your competitive shooting matches. We're going over the NRL22 Course of Fire for May 2023, the first match of the season. This one's called Going the Distance, and the only trouble with this stage, you kind of face a analysis paralysis problem, right? So let's go over the stage description, I'll talk about what I mean. There is a restriction on this stage that says no part of the bipod can touch the ground. Personally, I wouldn't even use a bipod on this stage, but if you do, don't let it touch the ground. The floor is lava. So on the start signal, you'll take a position on one of the 5 barricades and shoot the targets from near to far, large to small with 1 shot each. After 5 shots, you will transition to a different barricade and engage the targets in the same sequence. I'll put the target sizes down here. We have a 1 and a 1.5 inch at 45 yards, a 2 and a 2.5 inch at 68 yards, and a 5 inch at 100 yards. So pretty generous target sizes, especially the 5 inch at 100 should be relatively easy to hit. My dope for this is down 1/10 for the first 2 targets, about 5/10 for the second 2 targets, and 1.8 for the last target. Yours might be different, but that's kind of what I'm working with. And I think in this stage it's okay to dial. I don't think you need to use holdovers. Because we're only using 2 out of these 5 props, it's not like 2 shots from each prop or something like that we usually see with this stage. As long as you find 2 comfortable positions, you should have plenty of time to dial up, and then dial back to the first target, and then dial up for the last pair of targets, especially because the first 2 are pairs, so we're not changing 5 different dopes. We're only changing, once you set your dope for the first target, you're only changing up 2 times. So I'm going to dial for this stage. You should have enough time on the clock to do the same. The real question is, how do you approach this stage? And it's tough for me to give advice on a stage like this because everyone is so different. I can tell you what I'm going to do, and I can give you some ideas for the other positions, but it's really personal preference. What's great is that there are 5 different props here to choose from, and I know they're not set up exactly in the order they are in the picture. I kind of set them up this way to explain the differences in height. And to me, it's kind of important to, in a stage, you want to simplify things as much as possible, right? In order to do that, it's, for my opinion, it's best, 1, to be lowest to the ground, because you have the lowest center of gravity, usually you're more stable. And 2, if you can pick 2 props that have a similar height profile, so you're not really doing a lot of gymnastics and stuff in different positions. You're basically just assuming a similar position on 2 different props, but you're not going from one extreme to the other, right? And 2 different shooting positions. The muscle memory will kick in if they're the same heights and basically make things easier and more sort of repeatable. So I, in this case, am definitely gonna go for the 2 lowest targets, the 2 lowest barricades, which are gonna be the cinder block and the 2-gallon bucket. The 5-gallon bucket and the chair are pretty close together, but I don't know if you can really shoot off the seat of the chair and not have your scope be obstructed by the back of the chair. So really, the 5 positions are off the cinder block, 2-gallon bucket, 5-gallon bucket, probably off the back of the chair, and then off of the top of the 55-gallon drum. I've always been really comfortable with the 55-gallon drum, but again, lower to the ground, to me, it's a no-brainer. Now, I totally understand that you may have issues getting into a prone position off of those barricades, people with bad knees, bad backs, so something that's more upright might be more advantageous to you. That's why I said this stage is kind of hard to give you strategy for, because it's going to differ from every person. But the important thing is, before the match, kind of have an idea of what you're going to do, so you don't get up there on the clock and try and change your game plan halfway through. Have a plan going into this stage. Like I said, you should have plenty of time to dial, and I'll just give you some quick ideas of how I would do this stage. So off the 55-gallon drum, I can even use the bag I used from last stage. Relatively straightforward. Just plop it down here, kind of take a standing position like this, square up to the target. This is super stable, using my left hand here. Frequent viewers of the channel know that I'm also a huge fan of sliding up a bipod and using 2 points of contact on the 55-gallon drum. I should make a video just all about the different props and all the different cool things you can do. So again, here I really like this, where I slide the bipod all the way up on the Arca rail, which is why having a full-length rail is always so important. Using something like a rear bag to support the rear of the rifle, or if you can't get your rail, your bipod up far enough on your rail, you can always use this under the handguard. Something like this, super stable. I mean, this is like super stable, but again, I'm going from one extreme to the other, or something else. So I kind of want to stay in that end of the course. So there's a couple of tips for the 55-gallon drum if you prefer standing. Something like the back of the chair would definitely be a bag. that at least fits over there. And here is kind of more, for me anyway, would be a kneeling. And we're kneeling here, and again, we're using the either muscle on bone or bone on muscle contact, not bone on bone. But here I'm using my shooting. If I'm right-handed, I'm have my right leg forward, bent at a 90-degree angle. I shouldn't be like this on tippy toes. I shouldn't be doing some weird thing. 90 degrees, foot flat on the floor, straight up and down, elbow into my thigh or knee into my tricep. This is, for me, I have to lean over a little bit more, so it's going to be my tricep into my knee. Muscle on bone contact is much more stable than bone on bone. And here, off the back of the chair, relatively stable, not my favorite. Something similar here, 5-gallon bucket. I've seen people do some crazy stuff like deploy bipod legs and do something like that. And because there's a restriction that the bipod might not touch the ground, for whatever reason, you like come over here and you do that, you're DQ'd for the stage. So in my opinion, not worth a bipod. Kind of also I'm not going with the 55-gallon drum. But hey, you do you. And if you want, people I've seen kind of straddle the different buckets with the bipod. Here I think it's just as easy. Throw a bag down. Here I would throw the bag kind of like sideways because I don't need this cutout to go on anything. So a little bit more surface area, turning the bag sideways. Rifle comes down like this. Now, let's see, kneeling. It's kneelable, but if you're not flexible enough or if you have back problems, you may want to consider sitting. Sitting is relatively comfortable. Again, that elbow is kind of going into this pocket that my knee forms, into the muscle of my leg for extra stability. Left hand helps stabilize the rifle against the bag into the prop, and we engage 5 targets from there. But for me, what I like to do is these two down here. I'm going to do this with a plate that has a bag, a flat bag on it, because I want to get low to the ground. Again, gravity is your friend, and your center of gravity being lower generally means you are more stable. And of course, when you try and put these bags on camera, you embarrass yourself. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I have a flat bag, and I don't have the bag here at the sort of center balance point because I want to give myself a little bit more room up front. So I actually put this a little further forward than I usually would. Usually most of your bags go right in front of the mag well because that's the balance point of your rifle if you have it weighted properly. And so for me, it's going to be prone, and I mean, just like that, the gun is stable on its own. And I can come into the gun like this. And for me, I mean, like I said, if you have back issues, if you have knee issues, getting this low to the ground may be difficult. So hopefully I give you some ideas on the other props. But for me, front bag a little bit forward gives me a little bit more room down here, so I'm not as close to the prop. And for me, I mean, this is, like I said, even without doing anything, the rifle is super stable on its own. Again, 2 points of contact. Usually more points of contact is better. And I don't have to do very much anything to the rifle. And just like that, I mean, there's such a small height difference. We're basically in the same spot. What's nice about this bag, this is Armageddon Gear. This is one of their fat bags. If you can tell, it's kind of a wedge shape. So depending on what side you put it on, so there's like side 1, side 2, or like side 3, you get different heights. So here you saw I was in a vertical position. This is like 1 inch lower, the cinder block, so I might turn it over, and there we go, the rifle's level again. So just by having a bag like this that has like kind of 3 different lengths to the sides in the rectangular prism that is, can help you get on target. And like I said, down in the prone, very simple, super stable without me even doing anything. Engage the 5 targets, near to far. So again, this one's kind of give any advice or coaching on because there's a lot of personal choice, personal preference. But key takeaway here, I think you have time to dial, and 2, know which 2 props you want to use, your 2 favorites, before you start this stage. Go in with a game plan, and unless something goes catastrophically wrong, kind of try and stick to the game plan. You don't want to be like, timer goes off and I'm like, which prop do I want to shoot off of? No, go in with an exact game plan, and best of luck. I hope these tips and tricks helped. If they do, let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until I see you next time, score more points.